And the finest gentleman in Accra is joining me once again. This is all raps. So this is all raps.
I know.
Because
you don't have to
you
say it. I know.
And that's the voice of the remarkable Malik Abbas Dabo, who is joining me this morning for the news review. Malik, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, anymore.
Okay.
Good.
So, headlines.
Yes. Before I do the headlines, let me do a very, 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 very happy birthday to a very, 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 very important man, Reverend Dr. Chris Chi Hesse. Kwame Nkrumah's photographer. I had the honor to have an interview with him a few years ago. It was a great, great interview. I think it was about one of the best interviews I've had. He's 87 today. Anymore, 87 years. Reverend Chris Chi.
Amazing.
Hesse.
Happy birthday. Happy birthday to you, sir.
On the front page stories anymore. Let's start with the Chronicle newspaper. Oil find has not met our expectations. That's chiefs saying 2 cops gunned down, suspects arrested. Distrust complainant petitions Chief Justice again over miscarriage of justice. The banner headline on the front page of the Chronicle newspaper is Mahama rewriting banking history. That's according to Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, Vice President. And I've restored confidence in Ghana's economy. That's the President saying.
Okay, on the front page of the Business Finder, ADB shareholders approve 127 million GAT cash. VPCAT sought for 100,000 housing units. JK Foundation to help increase rice production.
Front page of the Daily Guide newspaper. You just did one front page story, right? Yes. The Daily Guide newspaper has quite a number of stories on this front page. Let's start with the United Nations Office for Project Services. 100,000 units, housing units to be constructed under the UNOPS and the Sustainable Housing Solutions Project. This takes off at Amasam, and the Vice President launched it yesterday. Bawumia Jabs Mahama shareholders approve ADB's 127 million GAT fund. The 2 police officers being shot is here. Nana sells Ghana at Tika. Those are the stories on the front page of the Daily Guide newspaper.
Okay, on the front page of the Daily Statesman, Finance Ministry condemns Bloomberg's negative reports on economy. Economy indices point in the right direction, that's according to President Akufo-Addo. You created the mess. Bawumia skins Mahama over ignorant comments on NPP's financial sector reforms. And I have that sound for you, so I'll be playing that for you a little later on.
I have the Daily Heritage newspaper. Suspension of PPA boss face-saving gimmick. That's according to the National Democratic Congress. No rural bank will be closed. Metro Mass boss, others under fire, face BNI corruption probe. And I will pass 2020 test at Krowo. That's Namumu assuring.
Okay, and Malik, on the front page of the Graphic Showbiz is a very, very important article. How to teach your boyfriend to be romantic.
I knew you were going to
very, very,
this
very
story.
important. It's very important. Also, music industry not open to creativity. That's according to Sefa. She's an up-and-coming artist. And that's the Graphic Showbiz.
It must be Sefa. I'm
Sefa,
sure it's a
yes,
Ghanaian.
Sefa.
The Daily Graphic newspaper is my last paper. With restored fiscal discipline, conditions ripe for private sector development. That's President saying at Tokyo conference. The ADB shareholders approving the GAT funds is here. IGP is placing 10,000 Ghana cedis bounty on Cops killer. Back page of the Daily Graphic newspaper. Poor Daboya Man Kargu Road hinders security, economic activity. Last story, British High Commission supports GIS Special Visa Fraud Unit.
Ghana Immigration. We had them yesterday on the show, if you remember. And on the front page of the Ghanaian Times, we will be the fastest growing economy in the world. That's according to the president. And he's predicting our amazing growth. We stand with him and we say amen. Shareholders approve 127 million GAT capital support for ADB. 2 cops gunned down by armed men. That's terrible story. Also on the front page of the Ghanaian Times. On the back page, government NMC blamed for GBC's challenges, and that story about the British High Commission and the Ghana Immigration Service.
Anyway, let's start with that terrible story you just mentioned. You have one more paper?
Yes, I do. I have the Crusading Guide. Akufo-Addo woos Asian investors, says fiscal discipline restored, economic indices pointing in the right direction. Oko van der Poel tops them all as the most popular MP with highest votes in Greater Accra NDC primaries, and lock up Asamankese Palace to lessen tension.
Okay, so let's go back to that story, the terrible story of the shooting of two police officers yesterday. Now, this happened at Gomwa Budumburam in the central region. The Inspector General of Police, the acting Inspector General of Police, that is James Opombueno, has placed a 10,000 cedi bounty on the head of one Eric Kojodua. This Eric Kojodua is one of 4 people alleged to have been involved in the unfortunate shooting of these 2 police officers and killing them yesterday. Eric is on the run. 3 other persons have been arrested by the police. They were arrested yesterday. They are Ibrahim Zakaria, Isaac Emisa, and Dominic Coming. These 3 were together with Dominic when the shooting happened at Gomwa Budumburam. The story is that these 4 were in unregistered Toyota Camry, and they were driving from the central region towards Accra. Now, when they got to the Gomwa Budumburam junction, the 2 police officers who were on duty, they are with the Motor Traffic and Transport Department of the Ghana Police Service. They were on duty on the road. They waved these gentlemen using the unregistered car to stop, but they sped off. When they sped off, the police officers then chased them and they stopped them. These gentlemen stopped the car, got out, just pulled out their guns, shot the 2 police officers, Sergeant Michael Jamasi and Lance Corporal Awal Muhammad, shot them, leading to their death. Now, when they shot them, the story is that Sergeant Michael Jamasi actually took cover in a shop. He went into a shop. He has suffered so many gunshots, one to his head. He went into a shop ostensibly to try and seek cover, but he collapsed in the shop and died. Awal Muhammad, he survived his injuries for a while. He was rushed to the police hospital. Unfortunately, he died on arrival. When this happened, the police then called for reinforcement. The reinforcement came. They cordoned off where these gentlemen abandoned the vehicle after the shooting. And the eyewitnesses there helped to point out where the suspect had fled to. But because they cordoned off the area, they could not escape. So the police managed to arrest the 3 of them, Ibrahim Zakaria, Isaac Emisa, and Dominic Comey. They searched the vehicle, the Toyota Camry, which had been abandoned, and found a pistol in it. This is the pistol which had on it Kojodua as the owner of the pistol. Is the reason why the Inspector General of Police is placing this 10,000 cedi bounty on his head so that they can arrest him. But anymore, it is worrying because the killings of police officers in the last 2 months, it's troubling. Now, on July 30th, Agatha Nana Nabin was killed at Kumbungu by suspected armed robbers. On August 19th, at Mansun Konta, another police officer was killed by suspected armed robbers. Again, Lance Corporal Alhassan Asari was found dead at a petrol station in the eastern region just 2 weeks ago. And yesterday, 28th, 2 police officers gunned down. 5 police officers have been killed. Well, the other one, Lance Corporal Alhassan, it was suspect. He too was found with gunshot wounds. He was holding his own gun sitting at a fuel station. It was said that is as a result, it was suicide. That is not backed by any investigation. So we are uncertain. It's entirely possible he has been killed and left there. We don't know. But 5 police officers have died through shootings in the last 1 month. That's quite scary.
It's scary and it's very, very sad, Malik. And this morning our hearts go out to the families of these police officers. We can't imagine your pain. We pray that God will find you and comfort you and surround you with his love. And we pray for justice, more importantly, that justice be done. Also to serve as a deterrence, that you cannot do this kind of thing and get away with it.
Anyway, let me just add that in yesterday's incident, the police also found in the Toyota Camry 4 640mm expended shells at the scene. After they shot the police officer, this is what the evidence that the police picked up. And of course, this happened at Aplaku on that road.
On that road, yeah. We'll be bringing you more on that story. We'll be talking to some of the residents this morning to try and get a feel of what's going on there this morning. But staying with the police, Malik, 13 have been arrested for attacking the police at Libga, which is in Savelugu. which is in the northern region. So what happened was that the police went into that area with a letter to invite a suspect who was wanted in connection with a case of causing harm. As soon as the residents saw the police coming in with their vehicle, they attacked the vehicle. Apparently they destroyed it, completely damaged the vehicle, and then what happened was then that the police had to send reinforcements from the regional police headquarters to rescue their colleagues, Malik. I mean, so pretty much they were besieged by the community members because they were coming in to invite a suspect who was wanted in connection with the case. DSP Tanko has been speaking. He's a Northern Regional Public Relations Officer, and he's the one who's telling the story and says that these 13 of them have been arrested. They've been granted bail. Actually, they'll be back on September 2nd, and there was one female included, and they had guns, which is also very, very worrying. They found a single-barreled gun on one of these 13 suspects. But remember, yesterday we were talking about violence in the northern region, the fact that RegSec had said that they are going to reinforce and
the Regional Security Council there.
Yes, up the security in that area. So it's all a bit worrying this morning, how police are being treated generally across the country.
Moving away from that anymore, let's go to politics. And 4 political parties, according to Daily Graphic newspaper, page 17, these 4 political parties want the Procurement Authority Board to be dissolved. These are the main opposition leader, the National Democratic Congress, the People's National Convention, the Convention People's Party, and the Great Consolidated Popular Party, the Danlates Party. These are the parties that are demanding the dissolution of the board of the National Procurement Authority. And their case is simply that after the contract for sale documentary was aired here, the board ought not to be allowed to continue to hold itself out as the board of the authority, because it was the failures of the board that led to what has happened. But some of the parties are going beyond that. The National Democratic Congress, at a press conference yesterday, addressed by the communications officer of the party, our friend Sammy Gyamfi, he called for the arrest of the suspended PPA CEO, that's Mr. Ejeni Meje. And the case being made by Sammy Gyamfi yesterday at the press conference was that there's sufficient actionable evidence provided by Manasseh in that investigation, that the police cannot just sit by and watch and wait for any investigations, because given that the man was heard admitting that he owns shares in the company, this company is getting awards through sole source, contracts through sole sourcing, those contracts are onwardly sold, and he's a beneficiary, and yet he's sitting at the PPA where he plays a part in determining which companies get the contract. Sammy Gyamfi believes that the police do not have any explanation or any excuse not to arrest Mr. Ejeni Meje to answer questions in respect of this. Of course, some of the other parties, they did not go as far as calling for arrest, but they want the board to be dissolved, and some of the board members or the board itself to be invited for questioning as well, as to why they did not see the things that happened at the PPA involving this company in which the boss of PPA had shares. I will be hosting Sammy Gyamfi on Upfront tonight.
Okay.
We'll be interrogating some of the allegations he made yesterday.
Okay.
Tying what happened at the PPA to the president's commitment or lack of it thereof, he claimed, in fighting corruption.
That sounds good. What time is Upfront?
6 o'clock.
Okay, so tune in. Joy News, 6 to 7, Upfront.
And Malik, I'll have John Dumelo as well on the show.
Well. Malik will be
sensational parliamentary candidate.
Yes, so far until I stand. Yes, but
which will be very soon.
In other news, government is set to adjust the feeding grant. Malik, I was reading this story. So the government is hoping to move up. So they're hoping to move the feeding grant for the Ghana school feeding program from 1 CD per pupil to 1 CD 50 pesos.
Okay.
So Mrs. Frida Pempe,
50% increase.
Yes, the Deputy Minister of Gender, Children and Social Protection has been speaking. And the other thing that they're hoping to do is to extend the program coverage by at least 70% by the end of 2020 for more pupils to benefit. Another thing that she said, which is interesting, is that in 2016, the school feeding program was reaching 1,671,777 kids, but now it's reaching 2.7 million kids. So there's been an increase. In terms of the number of children that are benefiting from this. Remember that we started from 80 pesos in 2016 and now to 1 cedi and hoping to 1 cedi 50 pesos. But Malik, I think of 1 cedi 50 pesos. I think of how much I spend on food in a day. And I don't know, what are they eating, Malik? What are they eating at 1 cedi 50 pesos?
That's a fundamental question. But I guess what they would tell you is that because they buy in bulk, the bulk purchases tend to help to minimize the cost. The cost of feeding them. That does not take away the fundamental point that the quality of food served remains an issue. But you see, then I also thought of the fact that I'm sitting here in Accra and I feel like, all is well. Sometimes we can't see past our immediate surroundings. Absolutely.
But I'm thinking about the families, because in what she was saying that even because of this school feeding program, more children were actually going to the schools where the school feeding program was available.
Evidence to back that.
Yes, and they were staying in school because of this 1 cedi 50 pesos, 1 cedi. As at now is 1 cedi. So they were staying in school because of this 1 cedi food that they were receiving every day.
Yeah,
and so the poverty levels are crazy.
That means a lot in many places.
Exactly.
Anyway.
And so also they are introducing the cocoa beverages project to supply pupils under the school feeding program. Once again, with that issue, I thought, what's the big deal with 1 cup of Milo? But I'm thinking in families where they can't afford these things, this is really quite big. And it talks about the poverty levels in Ghana at the moment. There are so many
of those families. Anymore, in the Ashanti region, investigations are being conducted into the Metro Mass transit system there. That is because the Ashanti Regional Boss of the Metro Mass, Nicholas Oduro, sent a letter to the management of the Metro Mass Transit asking for investigations there. That's according to the Daily Heritage newspaper, because there were some untoward things happening. This is not new. Our colleague Ohimin Tewia had series of investigations into happenings at the Metro Mass, where at some level some managers were actually taking buses, declared those buses as irreparable, and eventually they went to buy those buses, repaired them, and they were using them. They just repainted them and they were using them for their own private businesses. And this happened. Unfortunately, nobody has been held responsible for this, but the Heritage is reporting investigations are happening as well again in that region. One other big story anymore that happened yesterday. Vice President Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia responding to the presidential candidate and former president John Dramani Mahama.
Yes.
The former president made comments about what government has done in respect of the financial cleanup and the collapse of 420 financial institutions. The former president and candidate says that has imposed untold hardship on so many people. Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia yesterday, speaking at the UNOPS launch of the 100,000 housing unit to be to be built by the United Nations Office for Project Services and the Sustainable Housing Solutions, said that, look, the former president shouldn't be the one talking.
Let me make it easy for you.
Former President Mahama claims that the problems in the banking sector could have been handled differently. He also argues that during the world financial crisis, it was not uncommon that many countries, because of the strategic nature of their domestic financial institutions, provided bailouts in exchange for equity in order to prevent a chaotic meltdown of the sector. Unfortunately, former President Mahama shows off his limited understanding of this issue with these claims. He forgets that almost all the non-performing loans transferred to MPART in the 1990s were from 5 or so state-owned banks, with the NPLs from the only 3 private banks constituting a mere 4%. Also, he does not mention that the same NDC government deemed it wise at that time to close banks after the MPART had shown that it was not a panacea for dealing with the banking sector crisis. Hence, the liquidation in Ghana of BCCI in 1999 and 2000, and the closure and liquidation by the Bank of Ghana of the Cooperative Bank and the Bank for Housing and Construction. Incidentally, at the time, when former President John Mahama was Minister for Communications and had to explain the reasons why those banks could not be saved by the then government.
Well, and that is the Vice President of Ghana speaking. And in fact, I don't like the way you are treating my former president at all, I must say. But anyway, he made some good points there. And so it continues, Bawumia versus Mahama. Watch out for the next edition of that. But coming up next is the online news review, and it's brought to you by Zenith Bank, in your best interest, and GOIL Good Energy. At Zenith Bank, helping you save time is our priority. Enjoy 3 great instant services at any Zenith Bank branch nationwide, as well as at our Ho and Winneba agencies. Number 1, instant issuance of Visa and MasterCard debit and prepaid cards. Number 2, instant replacement of Visa credit cards. Number 3, instant self-generated electronic pins for instantly issued cards. Make the smart choice. Think speed, think Zenith. Zenith Bank, in your best interest. And now you can make your day much more productive by relying on fuel from GOIL, your 3-time CIMG Petroleum Company of the Year. GOIL Super XP and Diesel XP are additivated to enhance strong engine performance and prolong the lifespan of your vehicle. Above all, you're guaranteed extra quality with our fuel analyzer from our mobile laboratory van. Get your money's worth every day by buying fuel and lubricants from any of GOIL's over 360 service stations nationwide and experience good energy. Buy GOIL, grow Ghana. GOIL, good energy. GOIL, Yenara Yedia. And myjoyonline.com, police patrol team to receive bulletproof vests. The acting IGP James Opong Bueno has disclosed that the Ghana Police Service has taken delivery of some 4,500 bulletproof vests for patrol officers. Ablakwa solidarizes with Brazilians over Amazon rainforest fire. The chairman of the Ghana-Brazil Parliamentary Friendship Association, there's a Ghana-Brazil Parliamentary Friendship Association, is with the South American country as desperate efforts are made to put out the fire eating away at the Amazon forest. And there's also a video on My Joy Online. Kofi Ajololo angry about decision to site film village in Chebi. BBC.com, Nigeria reduces fees for U.S. citizens amid visa roll. The Nigeria has been in the news a lot in the past few weeks when it comes to the U.S. visa situation. But a popular and controversial Egyptian television talk show host has been suspended from appearing in the media for over a year over remarks she made on air about obesity among Egyptian women. Well, all that and more on bbc.com. Also check out My Joy Online for all the latest stories. We will be right back after we take these messages.